As an economist, I am going to analyze this issue using the logic that economists use, and I will do it in a very simple way because we are not in an audience of economists. This presentation is mainly based on research I've done with my colleague at IDC, Professor Rafi and using mainly Israeli data. So what did we learn? Okay, this is a very simple but important conclusion. The research shows that terrorism has an enormous economic impact of macroeconomic magnitude. Okay, and this is really an interesting question for an economist because with a very little investment, they get a huge return. And this is something that businessmen are looking all over the world. How can you make a lot of return with a very little investment? And this is what the terrorists have found the formula. And the formula is through the media. Okay. Here you can see the impact of the Intifada on the rate of growth of GDP at the beginning of the year 2000, 2001. This was the worst recession that the Israeli economy experienced since the creation of the state. Okay? Unfortunately, at the same time, we had a crisis in the high-tech market, the burst of the dot-com bubble. So it's very hard to disentangle whether it was the high-tech problem or the terrorist problem. But once you see or you compare this is not working very well near. Okay. Here you see the vulnerability, and here you see the resilience, where in 2008, 2009, we have a major crisis in the world, and the economy, the Israeli economy, was strong enough not to enter into a recession. So in order to have this kind of damage, you need the impact of terrorism. The same is true for the US economy. In 2001, the economy, the American economy, was going out of the recession, and analysts were talking about getting out of the recession at the end of 2001. And here comes 9/11, and the American economy continues in a recession for 2 additional years. So the impact is an enormous impact in terms of economic damage. What is the transmission mechanism and the role of the media? Show you a few pictures, okay? This is what the media publishes in Israel. This is a kindergarten in the latest operation. This is it's not working. This is the response. Fortunately, we have this Iron Dome to cover our problems. Next, please. This is a picture that I want you to think in these terms. How much, as an economist, I apologize for this type of analysis, but this is something that will help you understand what I'm trying to talk about. How much Al-Qaeda will have to pay CNN to show these pictures the amount of times that has been shown since 9/11. It's an enormous amount of money with an enormous impact for what Al-Qaeda and terrorist organizations all over the world have been achieving. So the media plays an enormous role. Now, I'm going to skip because of time problems, some methodological things, but this is something that I want to show you. In 2002, we had the worst terror attack of the Intifada year. And I constructed with Professor Eldor a time series of the amount of money that the terrorist organization would have to pay to the media to show all the coverage of the terrorists during that year. So you see the time series, it's almost on a daily basis, the attacks. It's an enormous amount of money that arrives to the sum of, next please, of 500 million shekel in 2002. In relative terms, compared with the GDP of the US, this is equivalent to $11 billion for the US. So my question is, what type of propaganda campaign can you launch using this type of budget? Okay? This is what you can do. These are the largest advertisement firms around the world. Procter & Gamble, $5.8 billion. So it's half the amount that the terrorists got from the Israeli press. Coca-Cola and McDonald's are firms that are based on advertisement. Is 1/10 of the amount of coverage that the terrorists got for free in the Israeli media. Now, just to show you that I am an economist, this is a formula, okay? M is media, T is terror. So this is the production function of the terrorist organizations. They produce media using terror. And now the question is how this works, okay? And what I want to show you is that lots of numbers, and these numbers show that using the characteristics of the terror attack, the number of attacks during the day, the number of people killed, whether it is a suicide attack or not, I can predict with a large amount of accuracy what will be published in the media. Okay? This is a formula that we have developed. So I can show you this, for example. This is the number of casualties on the horizontal axis, and on the vertical axis, the amount of media in terms of shekels that you can get for free, okay? The larger the amount of people you kill, the larger the media you get for free. So it's a very simple operation. This is what happens to the stock exchange, okay? Controlling for everything that you have to control, the larger the media coverage in terms of shekels, the larger the decline in the stock exchange, which is something that it's very useful for terror organizations to damage the financial markets. Now, let me use a simple, just to show you what was, we did an estimation of the coverage in the Israeli TV of this latest operation. Okay, I just called Channel 2 and Channel 10 and asked them if I would like to launch a propaganda campaign using the TV, how much it will cost me during the day. Okay, so I did all the calculation I will cost. I got the calculations from them, and we estimated the amount of media coverage as $7 billion in relation to the US GDP. So, as an economist, I would like to show you now I will have to do it one by one, a simple model, maybe a very simplistic model, of how we get into a prisoner's dilemma type of situation. Okay, so suppose that channel, next please, the numbers that I show you are the profit that channel A will get depending on what channel B does, okay? So if channel B decides to do a low coverage strategy, what would be the best thing for channel A to do? If it does low coverage, the profit will be 3. If it does high coverage, the profit will be 4, okay? High coverage based on low coverage, so it's better for them to do high coverage. If channel B does high coverage, what will be the best strategy for channel A? Well, if he does low, he has a low profit of 1. If he has high, a high profit of 2. So the dominant strategy for channel A is to do high coverage independent of what B does. And the same is true if you look at the other side. So we have a dominant strategy here. With the same numbers, I can show that we have a dominant strategy for channel B. So we reach an equilibrium here in this corner, which is high coverage of channel A and high coverage of channel B, with low profit for both, because high coverage is high cost and little time for doing other things. And that means that from the media point of view, they reach a pathological equilibrium, and from the society point of view, it's the worst possible equilibrium, because media coverage has a high coverage, and as I showed you before, the larger the coverage, the larger the damage for the economy. So the media acts as a silent partner to terrorism. Media coverage is a key channel by which terrorism produces economic damage. The economic damage costs increase monotonically with the amount of media coverage. And the last point, which is a tremendously important point that we have shown in our research, for a given terror attack, suppose you have two similar terror attacks with the same characteristics, the same amount of people killed, at the same time of the day, in the city, and so on. The same two terror attacks. In one of the attacks, there was a sport event that attracted the media. And in the other one, there was nothing else. So when the media was busy with something else, you get a lower economic damage. Lower coverage, lower economic damage. Something that we have shown in our research. So terrorism, to get full impact, you need the media. Terrorism with restricted media will lead a limited impact. So if we are looking for a counter-terrorism policy, it's important to deal with how the media deals and covers the terrorism. Well, this is the dilemma already saying, so for lack of time, I just will go and leave some questions for the panel to discuss, okay? Does the media coverage of terrorism adequately fulfill the public's right to know? That's a right, and the public has to know. The question is, does the media fulfill this right? Does the media generate more than the optimal amount of information needed to fulfill this right to know? Now, moving to some more complicated issues. Is there a democratic way of coordinating media coverage in a free, competitive society? We don't want to intervene. Government doesn't want to regulate the media. The question is whether there is some kind of solution, and we need that type of solution. And the final question, this is for the media, okay, the media there. Could the media accept a voluntary convention that will regulate the coverage of terrorism? Thank you very much.